So, after relatively short deliberations, it appears to me, Sam Bankman Fried was found guilty of defrauding FTX customers, investors, and lenders. So it says right here, a Manhattan federal jury found FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried guilty of defrauding its customers, investors, and lenders, concluding a dramatic fall for a 31-year-old entrepreneur. No, I think instead of saying entrepreneur, I think you should say scam artist, who presided over the largest crypto collapse in history. Now, I would imagine that Alex Mashinsky from Celsius might, well, I guess he definitely wasn't as big, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be found guilty too. But you've probably forgotten about them because nobody's talking about them. You see, unfortunately, because Sam Bankrupt Fraud was so busy giving all that money to the Democrats in Ukraine when they needed it, you ain't going to hear too much about this. Because it's funny, most people haven't even been paying attention to any of this. So when I saw it, I was actually shocked. I was like, wow, they convicted this dude real quick. But part of it was because what they don't want is they don't want him talking and getting their story out because, God forbid, he names his co-conspirators in the Democrat Senate and possibly the Democrat House. You don't want that to happen. So you had to lock this dude up quick. But anyway, it says jury members deliberated for a period of hours. They don't even give you a number. After how are they going to do that? They're going to say they deliberated for a period of hours. Like, are you going to give me a number? Is the number 10? Is the number 2? Is the number 1,000? Like what? Anyway, Bankman-Fried's criminal trial wrapped up Thursday. They concluded he was guilty on all 7 criminal charges, ranging from wire fraud to money laundering. First of all, one thing you need to understand, especially if you did that PPP loan fraud, they automatically get you guilty of wire fraud simply because you probably used a computer or a telephone in order to commit the fraud. So that's how the feds trump up the charges on you. They automatically catch you for wire fraud simply because you used a computer or the phone. So they already got you over the wire. That's number one. As far as money laundering, well, money laundering is when they basically get you for, trying to clean dirty money. And God knows what that actually means because they didn't really televise much of this. So the question is, how much of that money went to these Democrats and how much of that money went to Ukraine? That's the real question you should be asking. But naturally, the news ain't going to, the news. I have to use quotation marks with my fingers when I say the news. As President Trump said, they're fake news. But, they're not going to ask the hard questions. Just remember, I said it first. Yeah, those are the questions you should be asking. See, he was just the little fish. I want to catch the big fish, and I want to hang them all. But, I this day and age, they're not going to do that. So, it's just corruption left and right. Because, it's also funny. You're not also hearing about them talking about Biden because they're talking about now they got paychecks and stuff and they got evidence that he should be impeached. But you're not going to hear too much about that on the fake news. So anyway, it says his sentencing is scheduled for March 28th. The counts carry a maximum sentence of 110 years. Now, considering how many Democrats he probably could cause to get indicted, chances are he's going to end up just like, what was that guy's name? What the hell is that guy's name who was in the cell and they put him in there with like some big dude and supposedly killed himself? What was that guy's name? I can't even remember that guy's name now. I just had two, what are those things called? I had 2 beers. Well, not really beers, but they were like, sparkling liquors or whatever those things are called. Seagrams. Yes, I had 2 Seagrams, and my mind is not working very well right now because I had 2 Seagrams before bed. What was his name? He had like Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, something Epstein. And the guy, he quote unquote killed himself with the quotes on my fingers. Yeah, right. So anyway, it says Bankman-Fried was stoic while his verdict was read in the courtroom, and he didn't look back at his parents. His father dipped his head. His mother took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. You knew your kid was a criminal. You knew it. It says Bankman-Fried faces even more potential legal jeopardy in the year ahead. He is scheduled to face a separate set of criminal charges that allege he committed bank fraud and bribed Chinese officials in another trial due to begin in March. So this guy is not even finished with the trials. Prosecutors argue that Bankman-Fried deliberately stole $14 billion in customer deposits from his cryptocurrency exchange in a scheme that he carried out with three of his top executives, Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison. I'm waiting for her trial too. FTX co-founder Gary Wang and FTX engineering director Nishid Singh. So chances are all of them are getting locked up. All three pleaded guilty to fraud charges after FTX's collapse and testified against Bankman-Fried under plea agreements with the government. The group, prosecutors claimed, allowed Bankman-Fried's sister crypto trading firm Alameda Research secret backdoor access to FTX's customer deposits, then spent the money on investments, loan repayments, political donations. See, that's what you should be watching. They should put that in bold. And then real estate. He spent his customers' money and he lied to them about it, Prosecutor Nicholas Roos said in the government's closing argument. Where did the money go? The money went to pay for investments, to repay loans, to cover expenses, to purchase property, and to make political donations. Okay, so it says SBF found guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, that could give you 20 years max. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud on FTX customers, that could give you 20 years. Wire fraud on lenders to Alameda Research, that could give you 20 years. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, that could give you another 20 years. Conspiracy to commit securities fraud, another 5 years. Conspiracy to commit commodities fraud on FTX customers, that could give you 5 years. Conspiracy to commit money laundering. So basically, I don't think that he's going to get... Well, first of all, he's going to get found guilty on the wire fraud. I'm pretty sure of that. Chances are he's going to end up with some Bernie Madoff numbers. Now, Bernie Madoff, he was sentenced to like several life sentences because the guy was already old. But they gave him like 198 years or something like that. I can't even remember the number. But old Sam bankrupt fraud is going away. It says at the heart of the charges against bankrupt fraud were accusations that he and FTX falsely represented that customers' deposits were safely in the exchange's custody and did so in public tweets on FTX's website and private communications with customers, lenders, and investors. In FTX's terms of service, the government pointed out account holders were told that funds in their account were owned by them and available to withdraw. And sure enough, somebody screws the whole thing up and tries to withdraw the money. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but you get the gist. And I wasn't expecting this news today, but, he got what he deserved. Now, I'm fortunate because unlike some of these cryptocurrency gamblers, unlike some of them, I refused to put any money into this. You see, I prefer to invest my money on dividend-paying stock. Dividend-paying stock in well-known global international companies that are so big that they're relatively too big to fail in some cases. Now, while these people, oh yeah, we going to the moon, we going to Jupiter! Oh, no. You're not going to anywhere. You're going to jail. That's where you're going. You're going to jail. You're going to the booty house. You're going to prison. You're going to the booty house. That's where you're going. You're not going to the moon. You're not going to Jupiter. You're not going to Pluto. You see, the problem is, you know how they say buy the rumor, sell the fact? People who got into crypto in the very, very, very beginning, yeah, they made their millions because they were waiting for everybody else to get pulled into it. They were waiting for other people to get suckered into it. But the moment that you saw the government get involved, the moment that you saw the news explaining to old people why they should... Now, keep in mind, they were literally telling these old people that they should be investing in cryptocurrency. They were telling these old people that they should be putting their life savings and they should be putting, like there were people who were going out and they were taking out mortgages to buy Bitcoin, for example. They were telling these old people that they should be putting some of their, what was it called, their pensions into fucking cryptocurrency. And then I think, and it reminds me of Wall Street. You remember, I think it was, Martin Sheen, and he says, yeah, the rich have been doing this to the poor since the beginning of time. It's like, y'all don't recognize a scam when you see it. Why should I tokenize my US dollar money? Like right now, I have bank accounts. If I look at any of those bank accounts, I've got US dollar cash, and I can literally drive down the block to the bank and I can go to an ATM machine. I can pull that money right out. Why would I tokenize that money? Why would I? If I really wanted to gamble that money, I might as well just buy lottery tickets with it, because it's basically the same thing. But it is what it is. I mean, my thinking is I'm not into gambling. I don't go to casinos. I don't gamble. Every now and then I might play the lotto, but I'm not this type of people. Oh my God, it's Friday at 11. I got to go play my lotto. I'm not one of those people. The only lotto I'll play is like Lucky Sevens. Like I'll take $1 and buy a Lucky Sevens. I think the most I ever won was like $15. It's like some of these people just kill me with the nonsense. They really do. And after the Federal Reserve started raising those interest rates and the welfare stimmy checks stopped coming, I knew crypto was doomed. Oh, yeah, we going to 100,000. Oh, yeah, by summer 2020, Bitcoin going to be $1 million. Yeah, well, where are all those people now? Where are they? Where are they? I don't hear from any of them anymore. Like there's two guys that come on Fresh and Fit. And they come on like every time Bitcoin drops for whatever reason. And right now, even though Bitcoin's around 35,000 and there's some people who'd like to try to troll me and heckle me, the question that I want to ask is, well, what happened to the other 35,000? Bitcoin was at $68,000 before the shit collapsed. Didn't get anywhere near 100,000, but it was at 68,000. So now that it's under 36, it's at 35 something right now. What happened to the rest of the money? And that was during the best of times, because you remember how they were always saying that, oh yeah, the US dollar is going to fail and the world's going to collapse and all this and Bitcoin will save you. Well, we had a global pandemic. We had worldwide lockdowns. We had worldwide money printing. We had worldwide inflation. We literally are at the brink of World War III. You got Israel versus Palestinians. You got Russia versus Ukraine. It's like, despite all of this stuff happening, you mean to tell me the best you could do was $68,000? And then you lose half the money? It's like, listen, I'm going to tell all my hecklers, I'm going to tell you just like this. Don't wake me until Bitcoin gets back above 68,000. After that, after you explain to me where that other $33,000 went, that's when you can wake me. Don't say nothing to me. Don't say nothing to me until you get back to 68,000. Now, that actually brings me to yet another story. That brings me to something else that happened into the market this week. So yesterday, or I should say maybe the day before yesterday, Jerome Powell had his FOMC meeting, and they said that they were going to hold interest rates instead of raising interest rates again, that they were going to hold them. So right now they say the U.S. Federal Reserve holds interest rates at 22-year highs. So I'm not going to read all this. The bottom line is, it says the Federal Reserve rate target remains at 5.2% to 5.5%. Now, being at that percent rate, basically the 30-year fixed mortgages right now. Now, keep in mind, the houses are inflated in value. Some markets may have seen housing crashes or value declines, but most markets have not. And the reason why is because a lot of people who had a house refinanced their house into a mortgage below 4%. So for right now, especially for the people who are in the threes or lower, there's no reason for them to even consider selling their house because they have an asset and they're literally beating the bank. Because if the best the bank can offer is 8% right now, or even a 7%, if that's the best the bank can offer, but they're under 3, they're winning. And even if they ever faced a problem paying for that house, they could Airbnb it or they can rent something out or something. There's no need for them to sell their house. They can rent it out for a large enough payment to probably make their mortgage payment. So the bottom line is the Federal Reserve is in serious trouble. And that's the bottom line. They didn't raise, when they don't raise it, because here's the problem. What you have to understand is basic economics. In order for Jerome Powell to fight inflation, first of all, you need to know exactly what the inflation rate is, or you need to know what it's about. So let's say the inflation rate, what it looks like is around 10 to 11%. In order for you to fight inflation, you need to raise interest rates to 10 or 11%. You're not fighting inflation if your interest rate is lower than the inflation rate. You're just not. Because what that's basically saying is that you're still giving out cheap money. And if you're still giving out cheap money and you're still printing money, especially when we're running these deficits, then what you're doing is you're just creating more inflation because you're still printing money. So no, you have to make money expensive. You have to make credit expensive. You can't make it cheap. So unless you raise those interest rates to meet the cost of inflation, you are not fighting inflation. You're making it appear that you're fighting inflation, but you're really not. Now, the housing market is crippled. The housing market, you're looking at what? You're looking at houses that cost 30% to 40, possibly 50% more than they did back in 2018, if you look at, right now in 2023. And then on top of that, if you try to buy one of those houses, well, the interest rate is so fucking high that, you probably can't. Because if you're already talking about inflated value, you take $100,000 house, you make it cost $500,000, and now your mortgage payment is what, $6,000-$7,000 a month. You're not paying that. $5,000 a month. You're not paying that. So yeah, they've really put us in a bind. But see, the more interesting thing is the next thing, something that they don't really talk about. So we've got a problem. I used to complain when the national debt was at what was it, 31 trillion. And then we shot right past that. We went straight to 33 trillion and we're about to hit 34 trillion. I'm guessing that before January 1st, we'll be at 34 trillion at the rate that we're going. It looks like they have a new app that you can download for the national debt clock. It looks like you can actually watch the debt rise. But basically what the debt is telling you is that the interest has gotten so high just to pay the interest on the debt that we're basically, we're basically in the negatives. So what's really interesting here is they say that the debt per citizen is $100,313, and the debt per taxpayer is $259,103. So to tell you the truth, it always kills me when I hear there's certain Americans who walk around talking about how they're debt free. It's like, no, you're not. Not if you live here. If you live here, no, you're paying something. You're paying something because it feels to me that as an American citizen, your job at this point is to take on as much of this national debt as you can without capsizing. Thing about it is the number just keeps on growing. And this is why, now you keep in mind, these people, oh yeah, I don't know nothing. I'm debt free. Y'all, I walk around like an alien and y'all are debt slaves and I'm debt free and everything. No, you're not. No, you're not, because you damn sure gonna pay them taxes in April, but guess what? Your taxes gonna keep going up. Because you owe. If they're telling you right here that your debt per taxpayer is $259,000 and you're a taxpayer, well, guess what? You owe $259,000. So I'm sorry. I like, oh yeah, I'm free and I'm living my best life and yeah. Oh yeah. I'm shitting money and all it. Like I hear all this nonsense and I'm like, yeah, okay. You keep thinking that. Just keep showing up to work. Otherwise, you'll be right out on the street in a tent. Just keep showing up. So they're saying the student loan debt is 1.8 trillion. Before you know, I'll probably be looking at this 1 year from now, and that shit'll say $2 trillion. Because that's the number I use. Because the thing about it is, every year more people go to school, so it doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. $1.8 trillion. Now, from what I heard, student loan repayments are due. So they're looking for your student loan repayment right now. So if you owe student loans, from what I heard, that bill's in either in the mail, your mailbox, or it's on your table right now. It's waiting for you to do something about it. Yeah. Oh, I'm free. Yeah, I'm living my best life. I walk around like I'm an alien. People can't even see me. I got like the predator cloaking device. I'm an alien. Nobody can see me because I speak a different language. I ain't got no debt. I ain't got no debt. Yeah, the federal government begs to differ. So, I love coming to the debt clock, but it's really unfortunate having to actually look at it because, like this. So it sucks. In fact, I'm looking over my shoulder right now. They're showing Sam Bankman-Fried being escorted. I don't think he was remanded yet because normally you take somebody like that and just throw him head first into a cell. But I was looking at the TV. They're showing him being escorted away and all that. So anyway, yeah, that's just something I just needed to mention. I just needed to mention that. So the interest on the national debt supposedly is so high. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's actually exceeding the defense budget or something like that. Yeah, it says the defense budget was this 826 billion, right? It says defense war for whatever reason and then it says the interest on the debt is like 675. So yeah, I mean, I can't see the rest of it because of this picture right here, but I'll probably have to look at it on the computer, on the larger computer, because right now I'm looking at it on the phone. But yeah, that we're in serious trouble, man. We're in serious trouble, very, very serious trouble. So what I've been saying, and I've been saying this, you got to focus on what you're going to do with your wealth over the next 10 years. Because the thing about it is there's no way this country can continue. I mean, we're in a situation now where you can't borrow money from China. We've basically declared war economically on China and Russia and a bunch of other countries. These countries, the BRICS nations, these countries are forming up like Voltron, and they're planning basically to fight America economically. Like these countries are forming up like Power Rangers. And it's crazy because if you've been paying attention to the real news, I'm not talking about the shit on MSNBC, CNN, or Fox, but if you take a look, even if you watch Sky News, BBC, or something, if you watch anything international, any international news, doesn't even matter what country, if you take a look at international news, one thing you'll notice is all of these other leaders look presidential. Like even Vladimir Putin. It's like Xi Jinping, they say whatever they want about him, but Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, they're like the only people coming to the table right now and talking about peace, even in the Middle East. They're the only people doing it. Where's Biden? Where's Kamala Harris? They're just ignoring what's going on, and they're not talking about it unless, they want to talk about it. And they're going down in the polls. They're going down in the polls among Democrats because you've got people like Tlaib and Omar, who are basically telling you, yeah, Biden, we're not with you on this. They're, first of all, these are two Muslim women. I mean, if you expect them to support Israel, you're out of your mind. Just, it's fun. Like, I've had that conversation numerous times because, I like to argue. But I was like, listen, all you got to do is take a look at them two women and you know what side they're on. Like, you don't even they don't have to open their mouths. You know what side they're on. The Democrat Party, Mark my words. Now, and I'm thinking Trump is going to keep his head above water because, like, supposedly the DOJ was trying to lock him up and they were refused. They're not allowed to. If he can keep his head above water, the Democrat Party is going to turn on Biden. They're going to turn on him. And they're doing it now, but they're going to turn on him. They are going to turn on him. Young people, Trump is actually leading among 30-year-olds. If he leads among young voters, he's gonna win. Now, I don't know what that looks like because they might try to fight him with the Electoral College or whatever it is. I don't know what it looks like because there's always a possibility that they might try to do some kind of insurrection or some shit with the Electoral College. I'm not certain what that looks like because you never know. If he wins and the Electoral College refuses to certify him, that could be a constitutional crisis right there. You just don't know. And these liberals in these liberal states, these are exactly the type of people who try to do something. So basically what you'll see is a repeat of January 6th. For all we know, they might actually show up to the Congress or the White House or something and try to go in there and start fighting. And then they'll try to call that a peaceful protest. And meanwhile, what happened in January 6th? Oh, yeah, that was an insurrection, right? So I tell you, if Trump can keep his head above water, he just could win this. But as for Biden, Democrat Party's turning on him. They try not to talk about it. But if you pay attention to the news, Tlaib, Omar, what they called the squad. You remember when the squad was on their side? You remember when Kamala Harris was the squad leader? The squad. You remember that? Well, they ain't on your side no more. And they blaming you. Meanwhile, Trump's up there like Trump. Oh, yeah, well, I never started any wars. I tried to make peace with North Korea. It's like I'm looking at these other world leaders, these BRICS nations, and I'm like, wait a minute. These people are trying to make peace. We are sending fucking weapons to Ukraine and to Israel, basically trying to make more war. So, what's that look like to you? I mean, I know what it looks like to me. If you made it this far, congratulations. I'm going to make this very, very, very short, very, very, very quick. The Dow Jones was down this week. And I guess it was down because it was the lead up to the FOMC announcement that they weren't going to raise rates. And it appears almost as if the market was basically crashing upwards because, as you can see this week, we were down, We were down below 32,700. Now we're above 33,883. And it only took basically 3 days. It was like each day the Dow basically gained like 500 points. So, first of all, one thing I noticed was Micron, for example. Like I was telling you about, these stocks. I was telling you about these things a while ago. AMD was at $93 and AMD shot right back up to 107. Tesla was below 200. Tesla shot right back up to 218. Micron is up to $70 now. Now, I was telling you about AMD, Intel, Micron. I was telling you about all of those because of AI and computer chips required for AI, GPU chips. Intel is now at $37.70. These things are all creeping up, and I hope that you bought into them because the thing about it is I've been telling you about these things for the longest, and now they're creeping up. They're just creeping up on you. NVIDIA was down a bit. Now they're back up. The trajectory is positive again, as you can see. So it looked to me now, and I want you to also notice something. Look at GCF Gold. GCF Gold is down below 2,000 again. All right, isn't that interesting? And then I'm looking at Bitcoin. Now, I just was talking about how I was looking at Bitcoin and it was above 35,000, right? Now look at it. Downturn. All these cryptocurrencies on the downturn again. What it appears to me is that towards the FOMC decision, there was a rotation out of some parts of the stock market, or tech, I should say. There was a rotation out of AI stock and chip stocks, and that rotation put that money into gold, and some people put their money into, Bitcoin, right? It appears that now that the Federal Reserve has paused the rate increase. It appears that now you're seeing that rotation going back the other opposite direction. It looks like it's going back into stocks. So me personally, I still am focused on dividend stocks. That's the bottom line. The energy sector. Look at the energy sector. SM, SLCA. I've been talking about these things since the pandemic. TI, CPE. The energy sector is doing fabulously. It's doing absolutely fabulously. And if you're holding lots and lots and lots of shares, you're getting lots and lots of dividends. Look at the banks. Since that since that meeting, look at the banks. The trajectory is nice and positive for all of them. And these are all dividend payers, banks and oil, all dividend payers. So, it is what it is. It's like, God knows where we're going to be like 2 or 3 years from now. God knows, especially at the rate that this government's going. But the bottom line is you need to focus on where you're going to have your money for the next 10 years in order to make sure that you're getting maximum returns. And dividend payments out of the stocks, out of the best stocks that you can get, that you can afford, that are going to pay dividends while you park your money, that's what you should be focused on. And I've said that 100 times, but, these videos, I do these videos just because I like to. It's like they don't get a lot of views because YouTube basically, prioritizes, bullshit instead of, helpful, worthwhile material, I'd say. Like, it's just not what it used to be with this new algorithm that they got. And they've got artificial intelligence listening to every single thing and shadow banning and this, that, and the other. So it's like, but keep in mind, for me, YouTube, again, is a tax strategy. It's like I use these YouTube accounts. I use it for write-offs. I use it for vacation write-offs, business class flights, and this, that, and other. It's like, I make money on it, but I really focus on the tax benefits because as long as you can, not pay a large amount of taxes, when we're talking about how each citizen owes like over $200,000, each taxpayer owes that to the national debt. Well, I ain't trying to pay that. That's the bottom line. So I need as many tax strategies that legally can allow me to defer some of that national debt. You know what I'm saying? So that's about it. That's all I really had to say. So I'm going to leave it at that. I posted 2 videos. I was at the BMW launch event for the i5. I was at the Lincoln event for the Nautilus 2024. Very nice cars. It's like there's really not a whole lot of stuff coming out now, and there's not a whole lot of exciting stuff coming out right now. Right now, to me, feels like a market of stagflation. It's like it's just boring. That's the best way I could describe it. It's just boring. It's stagnant, and it's boring. People pointing a finger at Apple. Oh, yeah, they're not innovative. It's like, well, how innovative would you be if you were literally pulling your company out of China where you've been making your product for like the last, what is it? What iPhone are we up to? What is it? 15? Yeah, you've been making iPhones there in China for 15 years, and now you're pulling out of there. You're going to India? Well, how innovative would you be? How innovative would you be if over the last couple of years you were facing uncertainty of a COVID-stricken market where people didn't have the money to buy your product, and you gradually are watching your sales go down? Everything just feels stagnant right now. And that's just what it is. It just feels stagnant. What ain't stagnant is these oil prices and these gas prices. They ain't stagnant. Those things, we are almost into winter. It's November 2nd. We're almost into winter, and gas is still over $4.10 a gallon premium. It's like that. It's ridiculous. It's like, Joe Biden, mark my words, he's going to end up being Jimmy Carter Part 2. That's exactly what I think what it's going to take is either him to run and lose or for him to drop out entirely for people, because the fake news isn't going to call him that. They're not going to, like, I'm the only person that you're hearing say that. Jimmy Carter Part 2. You know why? Because most people don't really know the history about how badly Jimmy Carter lost to Reagan. And like they don't even look at the electoral map. But the bottom line is I'm the only person you're hearing say shit like that. They're not going to talk about that on CNN and MSNBC. They ain't going to say nothing about him. They're not even going to, they don't even bring up Jimmy Carter's name. But if you really think about it, this is the exact same shit that was killing Jimmy Carter's market, his entire economy. You had those oil embargoes, the oil crisis. It's like we've taken a page right out of history. We're right back where we were. It's incredible. But that's what I'm going to call him from now on. I'm going to call him Jimmy Carter Part 2. That's what I'm going to call him. Because this market, the stock market is telling one story. Main Street's telling another. Main Street's going homeless. Main Street's got tent city. So, the stock market don't tell the whole story. Because in order for you to really be doing anything on the stock market, you got to be in it. But when you see the stock market dipping, what that's telling you is that people aren't buying anything. Like, for instance, we're approaching Christmas. They got PlayStation 5s and Xboxes are in stock, right? Well, if they're in stock, then that means that people aren't buying them right now. Now, as we move towards Christmas, people will probably pick up the pace and they'll start buying these things. I don't think we're going to see scalper issues anymore because I think they've kind of tampered down on that. But the thing about it is, when you really think about like Christmas gifts and stuff, most people are deep in credit card debt, paying student loans, deep in student loan debt, and they ain't got the extra money. So if they don't have the extra money and their jobs ain't going to give them bonuses, then consumer spending is most likely going to be down. The reason why these stocks like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, the reason why these stocks were so high was because during COVID, people spent a lot of money, including the auto companies. People were buying cars up. Now those cars are getting repossessed because a lot of these people can't afford this shit. Like they bought cars during the pandemic that they couldn't afford to keep. But I'll tell you what, when Jimmy Carter Part 2 gets put out of office by a how should I say, a fair vote where people show up and vote against him. I'm not talking about mailing in ballots and shit and you're not allowed to count it, and you're not allowed to watch the person count it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when we have fair elections and people show up to the polls. Oh yeah, Jimmy Carter Part 2, he's out of there. And so you'll see. Mark my words.
To be continued.